Welcome to the Rosenfeld Review. I'm Lou Rosenfeld. I am delighted to have my guest today, someone you listeners probably know and maybe know very well, Jeff Gothelf. Jeff, hello, welcome.
Hey, Lou. Thanks so much for having me. It's nice to be here.
Great to have you here. Jeff, I'm like thinking of the standard intro. I mean, you've written so many books with a wonderful partner, co-author, Josh Seiden. Your latest is, I believe, Who Does What by How Much. But a lot of people know you from your Lean UX book, Sense and Respond, that you did with the Harvard Business Review Press. Some of the stuff that you and Josh did when you had moved into that role that I'm still kind of like grappling with myself of publishing. When you had Sense and Respond Press, you did Lean versus Agile versus Design Thinking. You've done other books. You're a keynote speaker, you're a teacher, a consultant, and a lot of people associate you with, I think of you as like someone, we sort of started in the same place. We were, I think, both information architects at one point. You're one of the earliest people I knew that started looking at Agile and moving into more of like a product mindset. I know you do a lot of thinking about OKRs, for example. I feel like in the last 20 years, we've all been exposed to methodologies or really ways of thinking and creating that sound great and make sense. So let's pick on OKRs, but it could be Six Sigma or anything along these lines. They are ways of thinking and doing that are quite brilliant and can move the needle, or at least they promise to move the needle. They come with artifacts, they come with rituals, but what they don't always come with is success. And I feel like there's this sort of yawning gap that I'd like to probe with you today of how you kind of get beyond the just taking it to a point where it ultimately becomes so ritualized that it's just theater, but nobody's really thinking about it and really changing the way they think and do. So this big gap that, stands between, I think it's really one of cultural change inside organization and maybe individual change in terms of how our brains work. How do we bridge that gap is really what I'd like to jump into with you here.
Yeah, we've seen this pretty much with everything, right? I mean, Agile being the biggest use case of the last 20 years, OKRs certainly in the last decade, and everything else that came before that. The interesting part about these ideas is that they're all risk mitigation strategies, right? Mitigate risk, but they require different ways of working, different ways of thinking, and different measures of success. And overwhelmingly, to this day, we're fighting 100 plus years of industrial manufacturing mindset as the model for business. It's still, even today, right? We've had continuous delivery, continuous deployment for years, if not a decade and a half at this point. Even today, AI can produce infinite artifacts, infinite output code in such short amounts of time, and yet still the measure of success is, did you make something? Right? People still get rewarded for making a thing, and it's never been less relevant in software than it has today. It's always been irrelevant. It's not always been irrelevant in software. It was mildly relevant back when I started my career, and software came in a box. At that time, right, there was an end to the thing that we made because it literally had to go get shrink wrapped and shipped to a store for people to buy it. But of course, that's a ridiculous concept today. And so this idea that incentivizing rewarding, and measuring the delivery of a thing, particularly when it comes to digital products and services, as success, it just doesn't make sense anymore. But it's antithetical to corporate culture. Corporate culture measures that, rewards it, incentivizes it, celebrates it. And that's really where all of these processes have struggled inside these organizations, right? You think about OKRs, especially the way that we talk about them, right? OKRs, if they're done correctly and they're done well, shift the measure of success from output to outcome, which sounds very pithy and clever and repeatable. But the short of it is, it shifts the measure of success from making a thing to, did anybody use that thing successfully in a meaningful way to the user, right? And that is not a conversation that most organizations have. Most organizations have success conversations at two levels. Right? It's the production. Did you make a thing? The output conversation, right? Did you make the thing? And the revenue, the sales conversation at the top, at the other end. And everything that happens in between there is rarely talked about as success, right? There's no conversations, or there's not none, but I don't like to speak in absolutes. But there are rarely deep conversations around, is anybody looking for this? Are they trying it? Are they using it? Are they using it more than once? Are they telling a friend about it? Is it making them use more of our product because they're already using this? Are they buying more services? Right? Those discussions, those are all the outcomes, all the behavior changes that we're looking for, and those are rarely measured as success. And I think that's where these processes have always struggled. So yeah, it's a cultural change, absolutely, kind of at the highest level. And then the culture doesn't change and the rewards and the incentives don't change, then the teams who are getting trained in these ways of working face a really interesting dilemma. So someone's invested in training them in Agile and product discovery and key results and all of these things, right? And then they're expected to go work this way, but they actually don't get paid to work this way. They get paid, rewarded, and celebrated for delivering output, period, end of story, right? And so there's this grinding of the gears, right, where you've trained me to work a certain way, but you're paying me to actually work the old way. And so what am I supposed to do? And inevitably, people will optimize for the way that they get paid, and these processes break, and they don't work, right? So I think that's a big part of the problem here. I think the other problem that happens a lot, and again, this is symptomatic of the situation I just described, is that a lot of these ideas are brought into organizations without a clear sense of why, at least not to the broader organization. Maybe the executive who brought it in has a clear sense of why they'd like to implement Agile objectives and key results, product discovery, whatever it is, right? But conveying that to the organization in a clear way that identifies a problem, right? Currently, we work like this. And because we work like this, we're having these negative effects to the business. And so we need to change the way that we work, right? And my hypothesis is that OKRs, Agile, whatever, right, is going to help us get there. And we will know we've been successful when we see these metrics change for us as an organization. I've never heard of an organization that pitched transformation in those terms, right? Here's the problem that we're solving. Here's our solution hypothesis, and here's the success criteria. And so people just forced into it, right? We're Agile now. We're using SAFe, right? You're on a release train. Okay, where's the train going, right? Why am I on a train? I didn't want to be on a train. But seriously, like, people don't know why, far less motivated to even try. And so this is all symptomatic of that foundational thing, but these are big issues.
It's funny. I mean, even with AI, I can't tell you how many times I've talked to people in large organizations who said, well, it came down from on high that we have to start using AI, but they don't tell us what for, why. I mean, it's pretty insane, but it does seem like that is a not uncommon approach. Is like, yeah, that's a good idea, make it happen without any kind of communication or guidance. So I'm hearing a couple things from you. First of all, there is this sort of like organizational problem of not explaining, really, of not communicating. which is really important in larger organizations, especially where things have to scale and different parts of an organization have to coordinate their activities. The first thing you got into was the sort of personal level incentive, where, am I being paid to do that? Is my performance being evaluated? What about, responsibility, accountability, authority? Those are all important issues that seem like they're not getting worked out. So, you've identified a lot of the problems here. Are you seeing organizations successful in addressing both of those? And what does it take?
So we do a lot of our work in large organizations, very large organizations, usually multinationals. In those organizations, we rarely see company-wide success. Every single person, pulling in the same direction and working the same way. However, we do see pockets of success. And what are the sort of the characteristics between those pockets of success? Number one is a leader.
Oh, what leader?
So
I'm sorry, you cut off.
An enlightened leader.
Thank you.
Right. It's an accountable executive who gets it and is willing to put their credibility on or organizational capital, political capital on the line for some change. That's number one. So that's a very common trait around these pockets of success. Number one. Number two, these organizations have built a learning muscle in like those pockets of success, these business units, right? They've built a learning muscle that they have learned to apply not only to their products and services that they're building, but to their ways of working. Right? One of the things we actually did this just last week with a large bank in Spain, actually, where we met with their leaders and we said, look, you folks are in charge of people who make products. Right? And we've got all of these methods of agile and product discovery and product management, et cetera, to build great products. But you can take that same approach and apply it to ways of working and process and cultural changes, right? It's the same idea, right? It's kind of like the way I laid out the hypothetical why behind the transformation, right? What's the problem that we're trying to solve? Well, it takes us 6 months to go to market with a new version of the product, which is ridiculous in 2026. Okay, great. What do we think will help that? Well, we think that working in smaller teams that are customer centric and that don't have to get every decision approved will help that. How will we know? Time to market reduces by 50%, right? So we've got a behavior change there as a measure of success. You'll find successful pockets inside these larger organizations have applied that type of learning and experimental mindset, not just to their products, but to their ways of working. And the way that they do that, we wrote about this in Who Does What by How Much. I have an example of it from, I can't say the name of the company, large British telco. Just leave it. That's what we actually said in the book, right? Where you take a fraction of the organization, a tiny fraction, and then you run a controlled, time-boxed experiment in a way of, right? So let's say you're a 60,000 person organization. So you're going to take 16 people, right? 6 people even, and you're going to say, look, you folks are now our new cross-functional team. You're going to work in 1-week cycles. You've got 12 weeks. This is the problem that you're solving for, outcomes that you're going for, right? Let's see how you do. We're going to time box this experiment. And those folks are going to work that way and they're going to build some learnings. And if they're successful based on predetermined criteria, at the end of that 12-week time box, well, now they've got evidence to say, look, this kind of works. Let's scale this up a little bit, not from 6 to 6,000, but maybe 60. And let's try that and see what we learn for the next 12 weeks. And if that goes well, let's go 60 to 600 to 6,000, and then we can roll it out, right? So the idea here is that where we've seen success is, again, an enlightened leader who gets it, a muscle of learning and experimentation that the organization has learned to apply not just to products and services, but to ways of working as well.
Thanks for that. And Yes, so you basically are creating an innovation center, right? No, 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 no. I'm just joking. Just
I was like,
joking. Just
geez,
joking.
I said, Lou.
Jeff, this is really helpful, and more importantly, really hopeful. Um, we got more to talk about, but we're going to take a quick break. Everyone, we're just so fortunate here. We get to be talking with Jeff Gothelf. You're listening to the Rosenfeld Review. We'll be right back. I'm going to give you 5 reasons you should be using the Rosenverse. First one, where else are you going to find 100 events that you can attend for free every year, 2 a week, about product management, product design, and UX design, plus a highly engaged Slack-based community of over 13,000 of your peers. What else are you going to find in the Rosenverse? You'll find hundreds and hundreds of recordings of conference presentations and community session recordings, all in one place from a single search browse interface. And behind those hundreds of recordings are hundreds of experts, people who have advanced the field, people who are your peers who are doing interesting new things, all in one place. Why else should you use the Rosenverse? We've been advancing the field of UX since 2005. You're going to find the most advanced content on such topics as design operations and program management, UX research, and a host of other topics from climate UX to civic design to how designers can work better in product organizations. Lastly, you've been trusting our content since we started back in 2005. Whether it's our books, our conferences, our community sessions, well, we think you're going to trust the way we've brought those all together so that you can spend less time searching and browsing and more time learning and benefiting. I hope you'll try out the Rosenverse, and I hope you'll consider upgrading to a gold paid membership because it brings you a lot more. Not only do you have access to hundreds and hundreds of recorded conference presentations, but you also get access to the Rosenbot, which is a ChatGPT 4 level chatbot that we've been training on all of our content, including our growing collection of nearly 60 books and counting. It's all there, it's all great content, and the Rosenbot is a cutting-edge way to get at it. You can try the gold membership out with a trial for 2 weeks. Give it a try. Hope you like it. Welcome back to the Rosenfeld Review. We're talking with Jeff Gothelf. Jeff, I'm thinking about what we were talking about, all this sort of organizational and cultural, almost like re-engineering, and how different it is from maybe what you and I were doing 20 or 25 years ago, which often involved like omnigraphal and boxes and arrows. And then I think, though, when I was an independent information architecture consultant, which was basically from about 2000 to 2010 or 12, I found very quickly that I wasn't doing much with IA from a traditional definition, but I actually was starting to call myself an information therapist because I'll tell you, I mean, a lot of the organizations that would bring me in, I was getting them on a couch, basically, talking about not only how to configure, move, redesign information systems, but how those people could just sort of function both professionally and emotionally in many cases in large environments, business environments. And I'm wondering what's going on? How do we get here? What I mean, I don't, maybe this is traditional. If you look at the history of business, there's always this sort of almost therapeutic consulting class that emerges from usually a new wave of technology. What's going on here? I'm sure you got some thoughts on this.
Look, it's interesting. I find myself over and over and over again being hired to come in and say the same thing to the organization that the person that hired me has been saying inside that organization for however many years.
Yep, been there.
Right? So yes, and so for me, that's always been like, and sometimes I feel I feel bad taking their money in that situation, right? Because clearly the person who hired me gets it, but they have met with obstacle after obstacle after obstacle, and they said, "Look, I can't do this on my own anymore. I need help." And maybe I come in and I say it a little differently. Maybe I come in and I don't have the baggage. I don't have the history with the people that I'm speaking to, so I can speak pretty freely. Whereas this individual maybe could not have done that. And I think for them, that's the real value in those types of relationships with consultants like us in that sense. I think we give them the backing, the support, the external validation that they're right. I think it makes them feel good. But I think, again, like the types of conversations that we're having about good design, about good information architecture, about good research, about agility and customer centricity and all of those types of things, those, for some reason, continue to be difficult conversations in organizations today. And it's fascinating to me that this, like in 2026, like these are still the same challenges that the folks that we help are facing, and that we're coming in to have these conversations. Um, I truly believe now that because of AI, the work that we do and that the people in our community do, the design work, the research work, et cetera, the product, um, is even more important today than it ever has been today. Because here's what I believe to be true. All the processes and all of the deliverables and all the documentation that we've created over the last 25 or 30 years has been designed to reduce the risk of and the costliness of software engineering. Right? Software engineering was expensive, and if you built something that was incorrect, or if you built something and no one used it, it was super expensive. And so all the processes and the documentations and the PRDs and the DRDs and the sign-offs and the approvals and all that stuff was designed to make sure that when it went to engineering, everyone was aligned and there was no deviation from the path. We were just going to build the thing, right? Today, with AI technology, the cost of engineering is plummeting. The bots can do a large majority of it. The risk of engineering is no longer a risk, not like it was, not 5 years ago or 10 years ago, and it's going to get cheaper and cheaper and cheaper. So where's the risk? The risk is in definition, vision, clarity, validation. In other words, it's in design, discovery, research, right? Product management. That's where that's the work today, right? When the bots can write the code for you at a fraction of the cost of a full scope engineering team. And I know we're not there yet. I know, and we may never get to a full
We're getting
replacement,
there.
right? But we are definitely getting there, right? The work that has been under the umbrella of design and research and product management, et cetera, right, becomes infinitely more important. And so I think that's where we're headed.
So I agree 100%. And I'm very bullish on what people in our, let's say, our industry, whatever we call it these days, what we bring, that is the thing that the humans really need to and have to be brought in to do. That's the value, especially when the execution, the implementation is becoming so inexpensive. But the decision makers in organizations, I think, are seeing people like us in the same light as they may be seeing the developers, the engineers. Well, the engineering is becoming so inexpensive, and I can cut a lot of my developers. We don't really need them anymore. And also this other stuff that is ultimately the sense making that needs to happen. The stuff that was being delivered to the developers in the old model. And how do we, I don't know that any of us has the answer yet, but how do we get these people who are painting us with that same brush to stop that and see that, no, you're actually going to need us more. Don't lay us off.
Yeah, to me, this is the difference between prompting with AI and designing with AI. I have an interesting point of view, not point of view, but perspective on this. My just got her first job. She just graduated from university, and she just got her first job as a UX designer, of all things, which I'm very
Got a
proud of.
job.
She got a job. This is the family business. Like I really and I really did not push her in this direction. I'm super proud of her, and it's fascinating for me to watch her work and to hear about her work. To your point about OmniGraffle and boxes and arrows, she has no clue what that stuff is, right? Her tools are Lovable and Bolt and Figma and
Mhm.
all of these prompting tools. But what's amazing is to hear her frustration, because those expectations are put on her. Hey, it's Monday. I need you to do an iteration by tomorrow. It's just a prompt, right? And she's like, no. She's like, first of all, the bots lie. Second of all, they don't do a great job. And third of all, right, you've got to think about this and you've got to test these ideas and you've got to make sure that the next iteration, which, yeah, she will prompt the thing to create, right, is based on evidence and feedback and some kind of critical thought. And this is the really interesting challenge, right? Is to demonstrate the value of that critical thought. Because to your point, and what I've seen from her is, again, the expectation is that times are dramatically reduced. Should they be reduced? Yeah, sure, right? Like you shouldn't have to go disappear for a month and come of a design. But to say, look, I need you to come back tomorrow with the next iteration because all you're doing is prompting is demonstrating a lack of understanding of what the tools do, how they work, and the benefits of critical thinking and design. And so I think that that's the key. The key is to make sure that as you go through this, is to say, look, I know you folks think that I'm just prompting the stuff, but what we've actually done is we took that last demo that you didn't like, we got some feedback on it, we talked to some customers, we synthesized that back, and this is the next version based on that. It's really, really fascinating to see that evolve.
In a way, it's our future is maybe described as we do the stuff that happens before the prompt.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. That's a good way to put it. That's an excellent way to put it, because you can use the bots as a thinking partner and to bounce ideas, but everything that comes out of the bots, number one, is an untested assumption. And number two, if all the bots are based on the same LLMs, then we're all getting the same answers from those bots. And so the differentiation, the uniqueness, the creativity, the innovation is going to come from the critical thinking of the designers and the researchers who are actually doing the thinking before the prompt.
So this makes me think of something that kind of, I got to admit, came to me while I was in the shower this morning. So sorry, it's probably TMI, but the kind of changes that are happening so quickly and with such powerful technologies and with such drastic impacts that we're all undergoing. I don't just mean in our field, but like the world basically, made me ask this question, and I'm going to throw it out to you. You get to be the first guinea pig. Given how fluid things are, what percentage chance do you think that Amazon will fail in 10 years? So here's like maybe the most successful tech company there is, huge in the business of distributing things for the most part. I mean, like, I think they even are at risk at this at this moment. Maybe it's not perceived that way, but crazy question. I'll just throw it out to you. You could say, Lou, come on.
Yeah, I think this is, in my opinion, 0% that they fail in a decade, and I'll tell you why. I think one of the things that company is particularly good at, they're good at two things. Number one is they're good at delivering products and services that people are always going to need. This is not that, like, whatever they're selling is not a fad per se that's going to pass. They're going to sell food, they're going to sell books, they're going to sell entertainment, they're going to sell packaged goods. People are going to need that for the foreseeable future, as far as I know. Right. So I think that's number one. And the other thing is that they are not only do they have the massive infrastructure to support all of this as a competitive moat, but they are in the business of using technology and being at the leading edge of technology to better serve those consumption needs, which I don't think are going away at all, right? So we're looking at drone deliveries, which they're doing already, right? And all those delivery robots and this factory automation systems. And so I think all of this new tech just makes them better at what they're already doing. That's what I think.
I don't disagree. And then I just start wondering, have we looked at other institutions historically and said there's zero chance they're going to fail? Like, I don't know, the Holy Roman Empire, the Catholic Church in the year 1400, the Assyrian Empire. I don't know. Well, we can come back to this in 10 years. Let's hope we're still around to do so. Jeff, it's been great talking with you. Before we let you go, well, you don't get to go unless there's a gift that you leave us with. What do you have for our listeners?
So I recently read a book called Ignorance by Milan Kundera. Kundera wrote The Unbearable Lightness of Being. This is one of his other many books. It's called Ignorance. I love this book. This book is about the two people's attempts to go back to their homelands after they've emigrated away 20 years earlier, and how their worldview has changed by leaving their homeland and coming home and to make their old families and friends care about their new lives. I just found it absolutely fascinating. It's a beautiful story. It's really well written. It's short. It's got a great audiobook, and I highly recommend it. It's fantastic.
Milan Kundera, Ignorance.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Jeff, I love that recommendation. I love fiction anyway, so thanks for doing that for us. Sounds like a great read, and thank you for a great conversation. It's always good to talk with you. Let's do it again soon.
It's my pleasure. Thanks so much for having me.
Hey, it's Lou. Thank you for listening to the latest Rosenfeld Review podcast. I really appreciate it. I would love to hear from you. And if you want to pop me an email, lou@rosenfeldmedia.com, tell me what you thought. Better yet, leave me the hell alone and post a review on your favorite podcast platform. Please feed the algorithm. It really does make a difference. We want to get the word out. If you like the word, give us a hand. And while I'm asking you for favors, don't forget, buy books. Support your favorite local independent publisher. We happen to be one, rosenfeldmedia.com. All those great UX books are there. So, thanks again.